Right, welcome everybody to our first meeting after our AGM. Can I declare the meeting of the City Council open? This hybrid meeting is being conducted on a multi-location basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act and the arrangements of multi-location meetings agreed by Council, which will operate alongside the Council standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. For those attending the meeting in the Council chamber, please note that today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or for training purposes. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version will be available on the Council website within 24 hours after this meeting. For those members present in the Council chamber, please use your microphones to contribute to the meeting, and please remember not to get too close to the microphone and also to switch off your microphone when you have finished. For those attending remotely, can I request that you switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure that there's no unnecessary background noise and to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this hybrid meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. For the benefit of everyone watching on the live stream, when I invite members to cast their votes remotely on any particular item, they will do so electronically using the voting facility on the chat function. The votes will automatically be counted and they are recorded on the system, but individual votes are not identified on the screen, and the chat room poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. However, I will announce the number of votes cast for or against and any abstentions before I declare the result. Those members present in the Council chamber will vote in the usual way by a show of hands. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. I have received apologies for absence from the following: Councillor Evans, Fairweather, John Jones and Trevor Watkins. Are there any other apologies? Okay. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage? I can see people on the test on there. There's not chatting, is there, Justin? Right. My announcements now. Can I just mention one or two things, really? First of all, I would like to thank all our staff who have been working throughout these extreme weather conditions. They really have been a credit to the authority in ensuring the work of the authority is carried on. And just like during the COVID, they were credit to us and they're a credit through this extreme weather. And I think this is something that we're going to have to get used to be perfectly honest, the way it's going on. Also at this point, I would like to thank the Dean for hosting the Mayoral Sunday at the Cathedral. What was interesting was his address, where he mentioned about the people in responsible positions, like MPs, AMs and councillors, need to be aware of their responsibility, like respect for each other, honesty and commitment. And let's hope that over the next year we can adhere to these. And remember, the electorate put us here to play a full and active part in running the authority. Obviously this is my second time in the chair now. Obviously it was the AGM, so I hope we can adhere to some of those things that the Dean was mentioning at the Mayoral Sunday. And I think that if I'm certainly going to make a few mistakes, and I'm sure some people out there are going to make mistakes. Certainly I might get some of the names wrong because obviously there's a lot of new members. So with that, can I move on to item 2 now, which are the minutes of the last AGM on the... Sorry, I've got papers here. Minutes of the meetings on the 1st of March and the 17th of May. Are there any point of accuracy? The point of accuracy agreed. I move the record as a true record. Is there a seconder?
Happy to second, Mr. Presiding Member.
Thank you. Would all those in favour please indicate? We're just waiting for electronically hands to come through.
That hasn't been sent through, so unless there's any objection.
Right, okay. So we all agree that I move the minutes as a true record. Sorry, with all those in favour, please indicate. Right. The approval of the minutes is duly carried. Item 3, appointments. Councillor Clark to introduce this item.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I can imagine it's very hot where you are today. Luckily, I've got a fan on me and I'm still sort of sweltering, but I'll make this quick. Before you is the report with the LEA Governor's nominations for your information. And also there is a little section there, just a couple of lines that to be noted that the head of housing has now been recruited. Yeah, he'll be joining us soon. So, yeah, that's really, it's in front of you. And, yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to Councillor Clark?
Seconded.
Right, thank you, Councillor Mulford. Would all councillors attending remotely please cast their vote now by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function? And for those in the chamber, all those in favour, please show any against or abstentions. Is there a vote in the chamber now? Can we have the hands up in the chamber, please? 4, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. 2, oh, sorry, 9. 2 abstentions in the back there? Is that, yes, is it? 2 abstentions. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got 100% for, none against, and we got 2 abstentions. Okay, all right. Okay. Police issues, item 4. Vicky Townsend unable to attend, awaiting confirmation of Tom Harding, but obviously we've been told yesterday that they haven't got anybody from police matters, so we'll have to refer this now to the next meeting. Okay, so keep your guns ready for that, if that's what you want to do. Right, if we move on to item 5 with the Treasury Management Report. The leader to present this report, please.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, we have before us the 2021-22 outturn on our Treasury management. This report's been reviewed by both the Governance and Audit Committee and Cabinet, and no comments or observations requiring the Council's attention were made. It's being presented at this meeting in line with full Council's responsibility for setting the Council's Treasury management strategy and the various indicators and limits that manage this activity. The report explains the Council's borrowing and investing activities in 2021-22 and its position against the indicators and limits set. Now, regarding borrowing, a substantial difference can be viewed relative to the expected position. The Council has a long-term requirement to borrow, and in pursuing an internal borrowing strategy should normally have minimal investments which it invests over the short term. However, due to the ongoing impacts of the COVID pandemic following a second year of significant capital expenditure slippage, the take-up of expected borrowing didn't materialise. The need to borrow is there and will happen, but slippage has meant that this has not materialised as quickly as expected. This second year of significant underspending and the resulting increase in reserves, which have yet to be spent, has also meant that cash resources are much higher than expected. This has allowed some small maturing loans to be repaid without refinancing and for spare cash levels to be high and invested. Colleagues, as outlined in this report, this is a temporary position, and as we now work to catch up on capital projects and with the financial support linked to COVID now ended, we should see cash resources and investments first reduce and then borrowing resume in line with our requirements over time. Officers are undertaking a detailed review of the capital programme to gain a better understanding of delivery timescales, and this will be reported to us in due course. On the indicators and limits, the report highlights one area where these were not met, which is unusual. The indicator relates to the Council's exposure to interest rate changes. Borrowing costs increase if the interest rate increases, and our income from investing activities would reduce if the interest rate dropped. However, regarding the indicator, it can be noted that the issue is being highlighted due to a different interpretation of our lender option, borrower option loans as variable interest loans rather than fixed interest rate loans. It's therefore more of a technical issue as opposed to one that's caused by borrowing decisions made. Indeed, the report confirms that given the nature of these loans, if the interest rate did increase, we would be more likely to make a budgetary saving rather than be exposed to the increased risk of costs increasing. Regarding the limit, this breach has occurred because our amount invested is much greater than that envisaged when setting the indicator. Again, this is of no concern as the Council's budget target for interest receivable hasn't changed. And even if rates decreased, it wouldn't impact on that budget. It should be noted that managing the Council's cash flows has been particularly challenging over these last two exceptional years. And I'd really like to give my thanks on behalf of the Council to our finance team for their work during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Is there a seconder?
Happy to second, Vice Presiding Officer.
Right, okay. It's been seconded by Councillor Deb Davis. Right, are there any comments on the proposal? Councillor Oakley?
Mr. Presiding Officer, thank you. On page 52, under section 9, it reads, none of our investments directly involved Russian institutes. Can we have some assurance that our investments are not indirectly involved in Russian institutes?
Okay, thank you for that. Leader, do you want to comment or do you want the Treasurer to make a comment?
I'm sure that the appropriate officer could provide information on that to all elected members. Thank you.
Right. You happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Leader, and thank Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. A further question on page.
Yeah.
A further observation then.
It's a debate, not questions.
Yeah. This is a debate, not questions now, mine.
No. This is an observation on the Management Treasury report that we are about to vote on. So what I would like to ask is, under other debt activity...
I'll allow it this time, Councillor Oakley, but you should have just had the one, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
And thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Under other debt activity, although not classed as borrowing, the authority previously raised capital finances to afford the Glenus School and the Southern Distributor Road. The accounts for 21-22 are being prepared at the time of this report, but the illustration statement of accounts is indicating a liability of £39 million to pay the operator. Could I have that broken down as to how much are we paying which operator, Glenna School and the Southern Distributor Road, out of the £39 million? Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Okay. That's a request for information, obviously, so I suggest that's going to be similar, that there be a written response to all members, okay? Right. There's been a second, and obviously now we come to a vote now on that. Can those in the hybrid vote on the chat line, and then those in the chamber vote accordingly? Can those in the chamber vote, please, on the Treasury report? Six, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 in here. Okay. Okay, that's all been agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Item 6 is the Welsh language report. The leader present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I'm really pleased to present this report to colleagues today. As you'll be aware, the Council is required to report annually on our progress in complying with the Welsh language standards under the Welsh Language Wales Measure 2011. This annual report provides an overview of the Council's progress in meeting the standards, includes information required by law to be published on an annual basis, a summary of key achievements during the year, and also priority areas for future work. Now, some of the highlights for 21-22 included our work with refugee, migrant and minority ethnic communities to better embed Welsh language as part of a shared sense of identity across the city, particularly in the context of the development of our 4th Welsh medium primary school. We improved, developed and began to deliver a new Welsh language skills policy, and processes have now been implemented and put in place to allow delivery next year. We engaged and consulted with key stakeholders and our communities to inform the development of our new 5-year Welsh language strategy, which has been passed with the full support of Council. We developed creative partnership arrangements outside of the public and voluntary sector to raise the profile of the Welsh language across Newport, and this included working with the Dragons Rugby and Newport County AFC to promote the Welsh language. The report also identifies priorities for the next reporting period, including that we will work to continue our work with stakeholders and partners to deliver the new 5-year Welsh language strategy, and also embed a performance monitoring framework to assess the delivery of objectives. We'll further engage with Newport's diverse communities to promote the Welsh language, raise awareness and visibility of the language, and continue to inform and develop Welsh medium education and the inclusivity of the language. We'll embed our new performance management structure across the Council, and we'll roll out our newly developed Welsh language training videos to all staff. We'll continue to scope and consider Welsh language courses for lapsed speakers or for those that need a confidence boost. So that concludes my overview. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member.
Is there a seconder, please?
Yes, Presiding Officer, Councillor Petruni. Seconded.
Right, thank you very much. Are there any comments on the proposal? Right. Again, would all councillors attending remotely please cast their votes now by clicking... Sorry?
Mr. Presiding Officer, I believe I raised my hand.
Sorry, I do apologise, Councillor Aliman.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, no problem. I wanted to comment on this report. I think it's a very important topic, and it is one that, you know, we can all support really, because we all want to see a promotion of the Welsh language, obviously, and to see an increase in use. And I am sort of very proud of, you know, the period that I've been councillor, to see the difference that has been achieved over these years. From the time when I used to have a constituent writing to me in Welsh, but also politely used to send me an English translation. But he often used to say to me, you are my counsellor, you should be able to, sorry, can you hear me? Sorry. Is there a problem?
Yes, no problem.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and we've had an interesting discussion on it in scrutiny. I want to point out two things. One, I would like to thank the Chief Education Officer for clarifying some of the issues. I picked up an item that showed that...
Can you put your camera on, please, while you're speaking?
I thought I did, Chair. Okay. Can you see me now? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I lost my... the Chief Education Officer clarified why we do have surplus places currently for the Welsh medium nurseries, and that we do have a plan to actually address this so that we can actually promote Welsh through education and through the early years for our children. So I'm grateful for that reply, and I think that will be good. But another thing about the report, which does not say, we have a very ambitious target set by the Welsh Government about achieving 1 million Welsh speakers by the year 2050. Now, I know that's 28 years away from now, but when you think about the task, we are talking about basically 1 million speakers out of possibly 3.5 million Welsh people altogether. I think that means, 1 or 2 in 7 would be sort of speaking Welsh. And I think that won't happen just overnight. We need to know how we progress in that, how we are, what progress we are achieving year in, year out. So while I would be supporting this particular report, I think future report ought to look at this target, translate what that means in the case of the city of Newport, our council area, and how we actually, the progress we are achieving year in, year out, to actually try and achieve that. It's a very ambitious target. It basically envisages something like 40,000 people in Newport, 40,000 residents, being able to use and speak Welsh. And that's a great thing to have. I don't think I will be around to see it, but it is something we should be doing. So I am asking really that future reports ought to put that target, highlight it and tell us how well we are doing and what we are doing to promote getting closer and closer to it every time we publish such a report. I'd like that request to go forward, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Well,
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure, Councillor Al-Imami, that they've taken notice of what your request is. The next
Chair,
one...
Presiding Officer, I'm happy to answer that as the Cabinet member responsible.
Yeah, you can come in later, but I've got other people split. There's other people who want to indicate, so if I can go through those indicators, then you can come back in the end then. So I got Deb Davis. Councillor Deb Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. It's just to say
Sorry, Councillor Davis. Councillor Al-Imami, can you switch your camera off now?
I am now, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I just wanted to say that in education, I know that officers were really grateful for the support and valuable contributions from the Welsh Language Promotions Officer in the development of our Welsh Language Strategic Education Plan. And whilst we're still waiting for final approval from Welsh Government, I know that the authority has had very positive feedback on this. The promotion plan that has been written by the officer will be extremely helpful in going forward. Can I please convey my thanks for this? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deb Davis. I think Councillor Hughes wanted to speak.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I would like to speak just as the Welsh Language Champion for the period of the report, really, if that's okay. And firstly, I'm going to speak in the Welsh language, and I will say the same thing again after that in the English language, if that's okay. Prynhawn da cyfeillion. Fel hyrwyddwr aelod etholedig dros y Gymraeg yn y llynedd, rwy'n falch o gefnogi'r gwaith ein swyddogion wrth hyrwyddo'r Gymraeg ac wrth godi broffail y Gymraeg o fewn y cyngor ac ar draws ein cymunedau. Rwy fod yn rhan o'r broses grant Cymraeg yn y gymuned roedd yn arbennig o galonogol gweld faint o ddiddordeb a cheisiadau eithriadol gan grwpiau cymunedol ledled Casnewydd i gynyddu'r defnydd o'r Gymraeg. Eu hymwybyddiaeth a'i gwelededd ar draws holl ddinasyddion Casnewydd gan gynnwys y rhai sy'n newydd i'r ddinas a Chymru. Mae'r adroddiad yn tynnu sylw at rai meysydd o'r gynnydd a gwirioneddol ynghyd â rhai blaenoriaethau allweddol ar gyfer y flwyddyn nesaf. A thu hwnt ac edrychaf ymlaen at weld sut mae'r Gymraeg yn cael ei chroesawu gan holl ddinasyddion Casnewydd a sut mae'n gweledigaeth o gweld, clywed, dysgu, defnyddio, caru a chefnogi'r Cymraeg fel iaith fyw ym mhob ran o fwyd ar draws y ddinas. As elected member champion for the Welsh language for last year, I'm proud to support the work of our officers in promoting the Welsh language and in raising the profile of the Welsh within the council and across the communities. Through being involved with the Welsh in the community grant process, it was especially encouraging to see the amount of interest and exceptional applications from the community groups across Newport to increase the use, awareness and visibility of the Welsh language across all Newport citizens, including those new to the city and, in fact, to Wales. The report highlights some areas of real progress along with some key priorities for the next year and beyond, and I look forward to seeing how the Welsh language is embraced across all Newport citizens and how our vision of see, hear, learn, use, love supports Welsh as a thriving language in all parts of life across the city. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Hurahan. Could you stand, please?
Certainly, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you. Just as a point of clarity, this report we're looking at this evening came through overview and scrutiny about 3 months ago. It's a retrospective report for the years 21-22. It again came to overview and scrutiny last month, and we've looked at most of the points that have been raised this evening, and the targets, etc., have been encompassed in that report, and next year's report should show a lot more progress in the way that's been requested. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Right, thank you for that information. Very helpful. Cabinet member want to come in now at the end? I don't think there's anybody else, is there? Cabinet member?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Officer, and I'd like to thank Councillor Hurahan for saying what I was about to say. I appreciate that, Councillor Hurahan. But also to note that, you know, Newport has over 20% of its population that speak Welsh. It's increased by 3% over the last 2 years, and if it continues at that rate, we'll just fall short. So Councillor Nuami is right to raise this as an issue. It is on our agenda. We will monitor it closely. Going forward, it'll be reported every year, and we need to increase the pace. Bear in mind, though, Councillor, that the pandemic happened and affected learning across the board for everyone across Wales and the country. So that dampened people's ability to learn language quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now we're voting now. So obviously, with all councillors attending remotely, please cast their votes now by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function. And for those in the chamber, can all those in favour please show now, again, any against or abstentions? Just waiting for the chat box to come through. Right, okay, electronically it's all gone through, so that report has been agreed. Right, move on to item 7, dog control, PSPO dog control. The Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Regulation and Housing to present this report.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And just for everyone, yeah, hopefully you've had time to read the paperwork in front of you, but I know there's a lot there. So I'm going to go really to do a little bit of history here and then go into where we are now. So first of all, I'm pleased to present the new Dog Control Public Spaces Control Order for approval. Prior to 2015, dog control had been managed under site-specific dog control orders for different council-owned open spaces. From October 2014, the Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014 introduced the use of public spaces protection orders, or as we know them, PSPOs, as a new power to deal with antisocial behaviour, including irresponsible dog ownership. This meant the pre-existing dog control orders had to be phased out and replaced by the PSPOs. Newport City's council approach, in line with other local authorities, has been to combine all matters related to dog control and behaviour into a wider order, which would benefit all members of the community using council-owned and managed land, including dog owners and the wider public alike. The order is deemed necessary to manage irresponsible dog walking, exercising behaviour that has a detrimental effect on other persons' use and enjoyment of public spaces. This ranges from the failure to remove faeces to the uncontrolled behaviour of animals towards people, other animals and wildlife. Of particular significance was the need to control behaviour in areas of play, activity, formal sports and in cemeteries, the occurrence of which has generated formal complaints to the authority. The control measures incorporated to the PSPO include banning dogs altogether from certain sensitive areas such as children's play areas, a requirement for dogs to be under control and on leads in certain other public places, and a general requirement for dog owners to clean up dog faeces. In accordance with the legislation and the statutory guidance, the Council is required to consult with the police, the general public and key stakeholders, such as dog owner clubs and associations, and to have regard to any consultation responses before deciding to proceed with the PSPO. The process of public engagement and consultation with key stakeholders has been overseen by the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee. The committee agreed to the public consultation exercise at its meeting in July 2021, following which an extensive consultation was carried out. This included engagement with key groups, including, for instance, sports clubs, sports governing bodies, Kennel Club, National Association of Funeral Directors, Wildlife Trust and the RSPB. In addition, banners and notices were produced and erected around the various sites and put on gates notifying the public. The link to the consultation was posted onto social media to help raise awareness. The results was a clear majority in favour of implementing the order. The outcome of the consultation was presented to the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee in January of this year. The committee considered the consultation responses and was satisfied that wide engagement had taken place and that there was a need for the control measures included in the proposed PSPO, and have recommended to Council that the proposed PSPO be adopted. A fairness and equality impact assessment has also been completed, and there are no negative outcomes associated with groups or individuals with protected characteristics. And the PSPO will contribute to the development of green and safe spaces, which is a key intervention for the Council. So the proposal is now to approve the dog control PSPO for a period of 3 years as per the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee recommendation. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you for that, Councillor Clark. Is there a seconder?
Seconder. Fairly member.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Are there any comments on the proposal? I've got 3 people at the moment. The first one is Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I just wanted to say that I fully support this PSPO. This actually came to my scrutiny committee back last year, and just to assure members and the public that this is not against dog owners. In summary, this excludes dogs from enclosed children's playing areas. It also excludes dogs from sporting fields at certain times of the year. And it also asks that dogs that are under control are kept on leads. But this isn't looking at the general dog walker. This is looking at dogs that are out of control and people that might be irresponsible. You know, even if you the whole thing about keeping dogs off sporting fields, even if you pick up after a dog, you don't always get everything that you pick up. You know, I've got a dog, I'm the same thing. If a child or an adult falls on them, they've got an open cut, it can cause a really awful wound. So all we're asking is that responsible dog owners keep their dogs off sporting fields during the season. So, as I said, it's not anything against dogs. This is something that's really good, I think. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Councillor Forsey. It's nice to see you here, Councillor Forsey, after your accident. So. Welcome.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I just wanted to say that I was also on scrutiny when this report came before us, and I think it's I welcome this, and I think it's important we do everything we can to protect children in the play areas and on the sporting fields, and also to encourage people to keep their dogs under control in cemeteries, which is respectful to people who go there. So I welcome this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsey. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I doubt you'll get any detractors from this well-intended PSBO order, and I fully agree with it. For me, on a personal level, I led a campaign way back in the 2000s when a few of my rugby players, as I was coached by the RFC, had to have treatment after sliding through dog faeces. My own brother was in a plaster cast from hip to toe, from the same sort of where it got into his system and poisoned him. Very lucky boy. For me, I suppose a lot of us would have had chats with concerned residents regarding dog faeces all over our wards over the years. And whilst it's admirable, and I will be fully supporting it, by the way, for me, I'm thinking that people will say, have we got the resources to actually police it to its fullest? Because that is a conversation I've had. It's you know, it is all well and good. People have said putting this in place, and it is good. But have the council got the resources to actually approach people? Are they going to be out and about, so to speak, and making sure that this PSBO is actually policed?
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Morris.
Thank you. Very similar to Kevin's question, actually, and I speak as a dog owner myself, and there's nothing more infuriating when you take your dog for a walk and there's other people who have actually bothered to pick the stuff up and then just thrown it in a bag into a hedge or into the area they're around. My question really is the practicality of actually taking action. How are we actually going to catch these people, and how are we actually going to find them? Are we going to give them a piece of paper, or how are we going to go about it? I totally support it, think it's an excellent idea, just I'm worried about the practicalities.
I think it's all in the report of where the action is going to be, and it would be interesting to see how successful it's going to be. But obviously, I think at the moment there's certainly a consensus of opinion that it's something we've got to do. Councillor Deb Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. And essentially, I'm commenting as Ward Councillor of Beechwood. We've got one of our jewels of our crowns in relation to ornamental parks in our ward. It's incredibly well used. What was noted during the COVID pandemic was the increased numbers of people who chose to have dogs and have exercised them in the park, and that's wonderful. It's good for everyone's health and well-being. However, there have been incidents where dogs have been off leads, and it has been quite frightening and scary for some of our residents, particularly our children. And this is one of the key areas where I do get a lot of casework with residents asking for support and help. So I very much welcome this PCSPO, and I welcome the support that we have from our community officers and our local police officers, because there'll be now some enforcement processes in place that will ensure that action will be taken, and there'll be some robust advice given to residents when their dogs are misbehaving. So I'm grateful, and I fully support this PSBO. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I saw another hand come up there, but it hasn't gone in the chat box. It was Councillor Was it Matthew Pym, is it?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Officer. I also support the recommendations with regards to this PSP. Off the back of it, could I make a recommendation that dedicated dog running areas within the larger parks of Newport are considered for future? Dogs need to be exercised. I'm a dog owner myself, and whilst I share the concerns and frustrations of other officers with dogs, and irresponsible dog owners within parks, I think would be a benefit in the larger parks of Newport if there were dedicated dog walking and running areas where dogs can be let off leads, where they can run around and be exercised, but without the public at risk of dogs running towards them, barking at them and intimidating them. I know that over in Beechwood Park and some of the parks in Newport, the tennis courts are often used. They're not supposed to be used, but they are enclosed with fencing. It allows dogs to be let off the lead and exercise safely. And off the back of this PSP, I think it would be a good idea to look into dedicated dog running areas within parks. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. As a newly elected councillor, it was ironic that one of my first things was about dog mess, council about dog mess and payments. So yeah, I was contacted by a Craig Belladino coach complaining about dog mess and the Gleeblands' unacceptable behaviour by owners. So yeah, very much welcome this movement by the council. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. I got Councillor Janet Cleverly.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I would just like to say I really support this motion, but as a past dog owner, sadly he passed away a few years ago, I used to take my dog out regular and he'd be on lead and he'd be attacked by other dogs with owners who just let him off their lead in Betty's playing field. You know, I've had 2 staffs on my dog and cost me over £100 in vet's fees, which I'm not, reluctant to let dogs off their leads if they're going to attack other dogs. And also recently, a friend of mine, her daughter got bit in a parky on Betty's on the cheek by a dog, which, they should be on leads. And also on walking their dogs when they pick their mess up, as a present councillor said, about chucking their mess in the trees. When we do litter picks, they're all like a Christmas tree, hanging bags in the trees and all. I'm sure other councillors have seen it. There should be more bins for them to put them in, because that's all the complaints I always get as a councillor about not enough bins to put their rubbish in. Okay, thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Cleverly. I don't think there's anybody else wishing to speak on this matter, and there's certainly a consensus now. So can we, those are all councillors attending remotely, can they cast their vote now? I won't go through all the, you know the rules now. And can we have a vote in the chamber as well, please? Right. One abstention, is there? Councillor Mogford? Abstention, is it? Or voting for? Yeah, voting for, is it? Right, okay, thank you. That's 100%. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Item 8 is Democratic Services minutes. We have before us the Democratic Services Committee minutes, which contain a recommendation from the committee to update the officer scheme of delegation. If I could move this on behalf of the Chair of Democratic Services and invite a councillor to second it. Right, thank you. Are there any comments on the recommendation? Nothing in the chat box. So would all councillors attending remotely please cast their votes now? And those in the chamber, can they have a show of hands, please? I'll just read it. That's 100%. The proposed change for the officer scheme of delegation is duly approved and adopted. Right, item 9. We now move to open question to the Leader of the Council, but firstly, the Leader will have... sorry, before we start that, does the Leader have any announcements to make first, before questions to you?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I do have a number of announcements to share with colleagues this evening. And colleagues, you'll be aware that proposals to create a city centre college campus, which will provide first-class further education facilities, are taking another step forward. And I'm sure this is a very positive development, and everyone can agree with that. So pre-planning consultation has been launched ahead of an outline application being jointly submitted by ourselves, Newport City Council and Coleg Gwent. Now, we've been working closely with Coleg Gwent and Welsh Government on our plans to bring further education provision into the heart of the city centre. The Newport Knowledge Quarter will offer excellent learning environments for further and higher education, helping to inspire generations of young people. We're also submitting a bid to the UK Government's Levelling Up Fund to support a National Technology Institute in a city centre location. Our aspiration to add such an institute, delivering high quality, higher level technical education and training, will be another valuable and much needed asset for our city. Now, these developments form part of our master plan for the city centre. Regeneration projects that will deliver employment, learning and training opportunities. They'll create a more diverse mix of uses and continue to make it an attractive place to live in, to work in and to visit. Colleagues, details of the pre-planning consultation are available on our website, and I'd really encourage you to take a look and share and submit your views on this. Now, continuing on from the skills and education theme, I'm also pleased to say that our latest community learning offering has now been launched, ready for a September start. After a difficult few years due to the pandemic, we're really pleased to be able to present an extended and extensive offer, including essential skills, GCSEs, modern languages, British Sign Language, digital literacy, and independent living skills. All that and more, including subjects such as carbon literacy, where learners can understand their carbon footprint and take steps to reduce their impact on the planet. So I'm really pleased that we'll be able to go forward with that. Now, from next week, the Kingsway Centre will become home to a new pop-up library. The unit, located very close to the main library building, will help to ensure that we can continue to provide lending services, access to public computers and some family research resources while improvement works are carried out on the Central Library and Museum. Following the completion of the work, some services which were based at the information station will be delivered from the newly refurbished building. Our contact centre staff will also be based there. Now, the move follows the decision to let 2 floors of the former railway station in Queensway to Tramshed Tech to create co-working space for start-up businesses in the digital, tech and creative sectors. Upper floors of this building, as you'll be aware, colleagues, are already occupied by Cardiff University's prestigious National Software Academy, making the former railway station home to cutting-edge digital entrepreneurs of the future. Now, I'd like to move to focus on Newport City Council and our very own Pride Staff Network. Our Pride Staff Network have partnered with Newport Live and Proud to launch the LGBTQAI+ Community Summer Art Project. The Pride Staff Network is celebrating a year in formation by working on the project, which is supporting the community Pride event Pride in the Port, which takes place in September. The project will allow community art to be showcased in celebration of 50 years of Pride in the UK and Newport's first ever community Pride. As part of the project, they're asking for submissions of artwork that will form a special collection that will be displayed at the riverfront. The art can be in any form, a painting or sculpture, physical form or digital for online use, and the subject of the artwork should be someone who's either Welsh or has strong links with Wales and who openly identifies as LGBTQAI+. Further details about how to make a submission are available on our website, and I do hope, colleagues, that you share this with our residents, with your networks and with our communities so that everybody can get behind this excellent initiative. Now, earlier this month, and I'd really like to thank many colleagues that joined the Deputy Mayor and myself on this, because we were honoured to welcome the Queen's Commonwealth Baton Relay to Newport, and hundreds of scouts, guides, beavers and brownies helped us to make sure it was a really warm welcome. The baton was making its way to Birmingham, host city of the 2022 Commonwealth Games, and will have travelled 90,000 miles around 72 nations and territories of the Commonwealth before finishing its journey later this month. Athlete Christian Malcolm and the boxer Sean McGoldrick joined the baton bearers, who'd all been nominated for their contributions within scouting and guiding, as the striking baton made its way around the track at Newport Stadium. After the relay, a range of activities including boxing, cycling, aerobics, tennis, squash, football, netball and table tennis were enjoyed by all the young people and their leaders alike. And a huge thank you to Newport Live for putting on those activities for all of those young people. And I'm sure that all the colleagues that joined us at that event would agree what a fantastic event it was and what an experience for those young people who were nominated to carry the baton. Since Council last met, I'm also really pleased to say that we've received the official Purple Flag accreditation for the city's evening and nighttime economy. Similar to the Blue Flag for beaches, the Purple Flag scheme aims to raise the standard and appeal of town and city centres between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Areas awarded the Purple Flag are recognised for providing a vibrant and diverse mix of dining, entertainment and culture, whilst also promoting the safety and well-being of visitors and residents. Highlights from Newport's submission include the invigoration of cafe culture during the pandemic, the proactive work being done around drugs and drink spiking, and the Newport Explorer signage. I'm sure you'd all agree there's undoubtedly been a significant change in the evening and nighttime offer and atmosphere in the city centre, and this is excellent news for businesses and really is a tribute to the hard work of our licensing officers and partners, including Newport Now Business Improvement District and Pub Watch. We've got a great mix of European-style cafe culture and traditional pubs, which is complemented by some excellent restaurants. The city also has fantastic independent businesses providing live music and entertainment. And I'm sure you'll all be aware of all of the entertainment that will be ongoing this weekend for the Big Splash activities. So lots of live music free in the city centre this weekend. Now, we'll continue our work in the city to ensure that we not only maintain this accolade, but really build upon it. And on the subject of accolades and recognition, on behalf of the Council, I'd really like to offer huge congratulations after not one, but 2 Newport wins in the prestigious National Teaching Awards for Wales. Llanwern High won the first ever Betty Campbell Award for Diversity in the Curriculum. Betty Campbell's family were at the event, and Professor Charlotte Williams, who wrote the recent recommendations for exploring cultural heritage and diversity in the curriculum for Wales, presented the award with Jeremy Miles. The second award was New Teacher of the Year, a category for teachers in years 2 and 3 of their career. This was won by Holly Gordon of Ysgol Bryn. Holly also won the South Wales Argus Award for the same category earlier in the year. The Minister for Education went to great lengths to stress Holly's expertise and the fact that Newport had the only ASD special school in Wales. Huge congratulations from all of us here at Newport City Council on such amazing achievements. And whilst we're on achievements, I'd also like to state that the Council was a winner at last week's National Environmental Awards, winning in the Best Policy and Practice within the Public Sector category. This is the second year in a row we've been recognised at these awards, having won the award for Outstanding Organisation last year. We were proud to accept the award, which recognises the commitment and the passion of our staff to deliver real change for our organisation and for Newport. And we will deliver real change. Our organisational climate change plan sets out a really clear path for us in terms of what we'll do over the next 5 years to further reduce our carbon emissions as we move towards becoming a net zero organisation by 2030. As well as our internal efforts, our local area energy plan also sets out how we can develop low carbon alternatives to help power our city. Together, we can really achieve this. So congratulations to everybody who's been involved in all the work that's contributed to that award. And thank you, Mr. Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader. It's very pleasing when some of the announcements you're making really is putting us up there with many authorities in Wales and in the country, to be perfectly honest. Right, now we've had the announcements from the Leader. Now is the time now for questions. And the first one now obviously was Matthew Evans, but obviously I believe Councillor Ropley, you were going to be asking the question.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Could the Leader of the Council answer the question? Could more be done to promote anti-bullying strategies?
Leader of the Council.
Thank you very much for that question, Councillor Routley. Of course, as an authority, something that is really at the forefront of our minds is how we respect and value each other. And it's really important in all of the work that we do, is that we actually act to promote respect. There's a lot of work ongoing. Obviously, the key area that we undertake these activities in are with our education partners. And we really do work very hard to promote positivity with our colleagues across all of our schools in relation to this. But actually, this goes far beyond this, doesn't it? Because it's about how individuals behave in the workplace and, of course, how we as an employer ensure that we've got appropriate policies and practice in place to address these issues. As a local authority, we take this very seriously and we do work very hard to promote this. But I'm sure that as a learning authority, there's always room for further development in relation to activities that we undertake regarding this. Thank you.
Have you got a supplementary or a clarification of the answer you've been given by the Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I welcome that answer. And I agree with the Leader that we are all fundamentally good people working for the benefit of the citizens of Newport. But there's a saying that children are resilient. I don't think that's correct. I think children and young people are not resilient. So what I'm asking for the Leader is to consider in her narrative there is to find a way to change the overall narrative and build upon our existing anti-bullying strategies. In the recent South Wales Argus story, it was highlighted over 121 young people and children had contacted the Gwent Police regarding bullying, violence, intimidation, assault and battery. Shocking statistics, but I guess that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Another young man constantly bullied because he was overweight and English.
Can I just stop you a minute, please? I think when we talk about a supplementary question, it's about clarifying some of the points. Really, some of these points you should have made in your original question to the Leader, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, then, to clarify the point, I welcome that the open door. There are many tragedies within this authority of mistaken opportunities to resolve the bullying and threatening behaviour that goes on, not just in public life, but in schools and colleges. And what I'm asking is that clarification, will she support an all-party push to have a constant use of the websites and get our officers to develop a brand new approach on all these issues, because we cannot stand by and watch children die, children injured, and children injured for the rest of our lives, because children are not resilient. They're like you, and they're like me, and they're like you, Mr. Presiding Officer. We are not resilient. We need to change the narrative. We need to have a consistent approach and a better push. We need to empower our officers to take us in a brand new direction. We have to stop this, Mr. Presiding Officer. I hope that we will continue this now. Thank you.
Right. Just remind members here, a supplementary is for 2 minutes, okay? I know you like to get up and have your piece, but it's 2 minutes, okay? So, all right, it's the first meeting we're having, so just remind all members, if it's a supplementary, it's 2 minutes to put that supplementary question, okay? Thank you. Leader, do you want to comment?
Thank you very much for that opportunity. I would like to comment. I'd like to firstly reiterate what I said in relation to Newport City Council taking this very seriously indeed. But it's important to note that bullying can happen at any age and in any setting. And that is the approach that we take when we're considering this as a City Council. I note that the questioner, Mr. Presiding Member, is actually the chair of an Overview and Scrutiny Committee that has an opportunity to explore this in relation to children and young people in far greater detail than the opportunity would be here in the Council chamber. I'd add to that furthermore that the Cabinet Member and the Head of the Education Service regularly attend that, and I'm sure that they'd be happy to delve into more detail in relation to this particular issue if it is causing that level of concern amongst elected members. So going forward, I'm sure that that would be the most appropriate environment within which to debate these issues in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. The next question is from Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Mine is currently around a hot topic, excuse the pun. I remember well as a 13-year-old the summer of '76. Apparently the hottest on record until today. I doubt that, because if it was the case, all councils would be celebrating, I suppose, because it would melt and fill in our potholes. Anyway, I had a walk around the ward today and I was looking at scarring, bearing in mind we've just had no mow May, and it looks like a lot of the areas, and I expect this is across the wards in Newport, whereby there's been like 2 metres cut and some of the grass left is around about 3 foot high. A lot of people have contacted me on Bettis, now bearing in mind we are surrounded by countryside, that they have massive concerns around potential fire starting. I did visit a few sites today and one was at least 70 yards long. Luckily the garden fence is intact. They've got away with murder there, maybe there was hosepipe used. But I am mindful of this, and I just want to ask the Leader, do the Council have conversations around this? Is there any mitigation? Is there any contingency plans for any such events? I note today also that there's pictures as we speak live of bracken on fire around in London, lots of areas of London. So it is a concern on Bettis at the moment, no doubt across the wards, that this bracken, this crispy tinder dry bracken, which is quite close to houses, is starting to make a lot of people feel a bit nervous, and I'm just wondering, is there any sort of contingency plans? Has it been discussed? Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Leader?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Whitehead, and as always, thank you for raising a really important issue here in the Chamber. There are a number of measures that are in place and ongoing discussions around this, and I'll just provide you with an overview of some of the work that we do. Firstly, it would be remiss of me not to point out in my reply to you that this only emphasises...
Unknown participant is now joining.
This only emphasises, so importantly, the work of our climate change strategy and the work that we do around that. You will recall that we did declare an ecological and climate emergency, and I'm sure that we do all agree that this weather conditions that we're experiencing at the moment and the subsequent impacts of that a really serious evidence of the way that the climate is changing. Now, the policy itself, as you're aware, in relation to No Mow May and some of the policies that relate to that, are all around about supporting biodiversity. So how can we ensure that we continue to develop the natural habitats in our environments? There's two further points that I'd like to share with you in relation to this, and certainly in my own ward, and many other members will have this ward, this in their wards as well, and that's some parts of the ward Newport City Council have got the responsibility for, and then other grassed areas Newport City Homes will have the responsibility for, and I think it's important that we're mindful of that as well. To provide an assurance, though, in terms of the weather that we're experiencing at the moment and whether there are plans in place to mitigate the impacts of that, as well as our longer term goals in relation to our climate strategy, I'd really like to assure you that civil contingencies have been meeting every day this week to discuss our response to this, not just in terms of the potential risks that the dry grass and the bracken cause to residents and to neighbourhoods, but also to ensure continuity of domiciliary care during this period and the more general well-being of the citizens of Newport.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Whitehead, do you want to come back with a supplementary to clarify anything that the Leader have just said?
Yeah, I did preempt tonight's meeting, obviously, and I also have sent emails to members of the City Services and Newport City Homes, because I am mindful that there are tracts of land that are in the remit of either or both. So I was sure to do that as well. But thanks for your answer, Leader. Hopefully we see no drama, but I suggest that all ward members just be ready at any given time for contact off residents and just be alert and mindful. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whitehead. The next one I've got now is Councillor Alan Morris.
Thanks a lot. Leader, can I ask, where are we on the issue of travellers at the moment? Years ago, I was on the Travellers Working Group, where we had to provide a site where travellers could go on a temporary basis, so that when they came to Newport, if they needed moving on, we had somewhere to put them, and then we had the excuse to move them on. I just wonder where we are. What is the position, please?
Leader.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you, Councillor Morris, for your question, because I do recall working closely with you at that time on this particular issue, and I'm sure we both recall the level of public engagement that we had in relation to this, which was very high indeed, and clearly that's an indication of the level of interest in this as an issue overall, I think. If we just consider this from a Welsh Government perspective at the moment, Welsh Government do require local authorities to undertake gypsy traveller accommodation assessments, and while some of this work was stalled really during COVID, it is underway now, and it's really important, I think, that we do carry out a robust assessment. You will note that some neighbouring authorities have chosen not to go ahead with that, but as many of us are aware, the nature of the traveller community is that they do roam from place to place, and so local authorities really should be looking at these issues. Now, for us as a local authority in undertaking the assessment, something that we need to be mindful of is this resource intensive. And Councillor Morris, you'd only need to remind you, given the level of resource that went into the work that we did 10 years ago on this, that a lot of officers and a lot of officer time is actually involved in this. So we're looking at undertaking that assessment. As I said, it is resource intensive, and officers who are dealing with this are often dealing with other housing issues as well. But one of the challenges that we face around this, as colleagues will also understand, is that summer does seem to lead to an increase in unauthorised encampments, and colleagues will be aware that we have a number of these across the city at the moment, and they're being managed in line with our existing policies. I hope that's helpful.
Councillor Morris, do you want to make a supplementary?
Yeah.
Be mindful, though, you've got to clarify the point of some of the
I'll be
leaders
as briefly
made.
as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that reply, but again, I would remind you, we're talking 10 years ago we set out on this route. It's also important to say that not all travellers are bad people. There are many decent folk amongst them, but people out there are getting very, very frustrated at the lack of progress. We thought we had the site 10 years ago, and it's still not, I understand, up and running. So if we can inject a little bit of urgency, a lot of people will be a lot happier for it.
Okay, Leader, are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I think I'd really like to make the distinction here between a fixed site, a permanent site, and a transit site. So what we tend to experience more in the summer months are people just moving through, and they're the sort of families that would need to use a transit site, as opposed to people who would need to join the housing register if they wish to be allocated a site, a fixed site on the permanent site that we identified. Now, in relation to that, of course, there is a lot of ongoing work that's undertaken in relation to eligibility and quite intense assessment of those applications. And I can assure you that that work is ongoing, Councillor Morris. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. The 15 minutes is up now, so there's no other questions to be asked to the Leader. Can we move on to item 10 now, questions to Cabinet Member? Question 1 now is... Councillor Morris, your question to the Cabinet Member for Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Education and Early Years.
Can I make it easy, Mr. Presiding Officer? Because I've asked, trying to ask the same question to every Cabinet Member, and it's not a catch question. I find talking to members of every party, and including the controlling group, there appears to be...
You've got... Listen, sorry to interrupt you, but... On the question, you've just got to the question you've submitted. You've got to read it as it says, not go into all.
Right, I'm explaining what the question is.
Okay. The thing is, what I can't understand, if I was perfectly blunt with you, all this was in the annual general meeting. It set out all the different portfolios and what their responsibilities were.
That's quite interesting, Mr. Presiding Officer, because if I asked any one of your members what the Cabinet Member does, it would be interesting if you heard the reply. Here's my question.
Right, put the question, thank you.
Please, can you explain your role and responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers who report to you?
Thank you so much for your question, Councillor Morris. I'm the Cabinet Member for Education and for Early Years, and you will find the responsibilities that relate to this role are set out in Appendix 1 of Item 2, which is on our agenda today. They're the minutes of the 17th of May 2022, and members can find this on page 33 of our report pack. My vision is a shared vision that's been set out by the Labour Administration in our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form the basis of the corporate plan from which the service area plans will be developed. I work closely with Chief Education Officer Sarah Morgan, who is the head of service in this area, and also with other senior officers. All elected members have been provided with the details of the executive team and heads of service as part of their induction. Thank you.
Supplementary?
No supplementary, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We move on to the next one then. It's Cabinet Member for Community and Wellbeing.
It's the same question, Mr. Mayor, or do you want me to read it again?
Well, yes, you've got to read it.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Presiding Officer.
You've got to read it.
Read it every time. Please, can you explain your role and responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers who report directly to you?
Okay, thank you for your question. I'm the Cabinet Member for Communities and Wellbeing. My responsibilities relating to this role are set out in Appendix 1 of Item 2 on our agenda today. in the minutes of the 17th of May 22, and members can find that on page 33 of the report. My vision is the shared vision set out by the Labour administration in our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form the basis of the corporate plan from which the service area plans will be developed. I work closely with my directors and heads of service for people, policy and transformation. All elected members have been provided with the details of the executive team and the heads of service as part of their induction after the May the 5th election.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. Supplementary?
No, Mr. President Officer, and I have no more questions.
So what are you saying? No, you're not going to answer. You don't want to. No more questions. Okay. Well, apparently the monitoring officer, you put the questions. You've got to present them, please. You started on this role, Councillor Morris. So.
Well, that's right. Many years ago, if I may, when you were my deputy, we go back to the 80s, and I was the chairman of the Leisure Committee.
Sorry, this has got. You've got to put the question. That's when it's the question to the cabinet member. We can have a debate outside about where we're at with all this, but what you've got to do at this moment is to put your question that you've submitted to the cabinet member.
Right. Can you explain your role and responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers that you report to?
Sorry, I should have said it's the cabinet member for strategic planning, regulation and housing, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Councillor Morris, for the question. I'm the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Regulation and Housing.
Yeah. Can you put your camera on, Councillor Clark? Sorry.
It is on.
It's not. Well, I can't see you anyway.
Sadly, I can see myself.
I can see you.
I can see you.
Right,
I can see James.
Yeah, well, there you are, at the Transporter Bridge.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. You didn't see 2p when you could say you could see me there, but anyway.
Unfortunately, I can see you, Chase.
Thank you. I'll restart. Thank you, Councillor Morris, for your question. I'm the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Regulation and Housing. Responsibilities relating to this role are set out in the 17th of May minutes, page 33, and also in the Appendix 1, Item 2 in our agenda today, so I take it everyone's got that paperwork. My vision is the shared vision set out by the Labour administration in our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will be the basis of the corporate plan from which the service area plans will be developed. I work closely with the Strategic Director of Environment and Sustainability, as well as the Strategic Director for transformation and corporate. I also work with and meet the heads of regeneration and economic development, the head of housing and communities, and on occasion the head of law and standards, and plus other senior officers. I also believe all elected members have been provided with details of the executive team and heads of service as part of their induction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Supplementary? No. Okay. Move on to the next question. Question 5. Social services. I don't know whether it's Councillor Hughes or whether it's Councillor Marshall going to take this. Put your question, please, Councillor Morris.
Please, can you explain your role and responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers who report to you?
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Morris. I am one of the Cabinet Members of Social Services in a job share agreement. Responsibilities relating to this role are set out in the Appendix 1 of Item 2 on our agenda today, minutes from the AGM of the 17th of May 2022, which members can find on the responsibilities for the said Cabinet Member for the Social Services on page 38 of the report pack. And my vision, like colleagues, are shared out as set by the Labour administration in a manifesto, commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form part of the basis of the corporate plan, of which the service area plans will be developed. I work closely with the Director, Sally Ann Jenkins, the Heads of Children, Natalie Poynier, and Adult Services, Mary Ryan, as well as other senior officers. On top of this, all elected members will have been provided with details of the executive team and heads of service as part of their induction. Thank you very much.
Supplementary? No supplementary. No. Okay, right. We move on now to the same Cabinet Member, obviously, is going to be answering this, and it's Councillor Mogford. Can you put your question to the Cabinet Member, please?
Chair.
Sorry, hold on a minute. Cabinet Member there for Social Services. Sorry, hold on a minute. Then we're going back then, for Social Services after that then.
Okay, no, deal with that one first.
Yeah. Sorry, we'll deal with yours first, I think, because obviously rather than go back and forth, so we deal with the Social Services. So can you put your questions to Social Services, please, Cabinet Member?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got 3 questions. Let me make sure I get the right one. I think it's this question. It has been reported last week that more than 1 in 3 children in Newport are living in poverty, new figures have found, making it the most impoverished local authority area in Wales. Source, South Wales Argus, 13th of the 7th, 2022. Why, in the Cabinet Member's opinion, is Newport making headlines, again, for the wrong reasons, and therefore, what actions are they, or he, taking at the Council level to address this dire situation head on?
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you, Councillor Mogford, for raising this question. So we have a growing population in Newport, and as the release of the ONS census data shows us, the reasons for that increase is the growth in our younger citizens. The causes of child poverty, and indeed poverty across all age groups, are multifactorial. A range of factors including rising living costs, low pay, housing costs and inadequate social security benefits are key. So some people do not have enough resources and thus live in poverty. Universal credit is currently insufficient to lift those eligible for in-work benefits out of poverty. Equally, the social security system for those wholly reliant on benefits as a safety net does not provide sufficient support, particularly for families with more than 2 children and for disabled people. Rising living costs impact more heavily on those dependent on social security and again have a very particular impact on children and disabled people. Responsibility for administering and implementing the benefits rests with the Westminster Government. Across Newport, we have in place a broad swathe of services for children, young people and their families, and these range from universal provision for all children in schools to specialist intervention for children's services for our most vulnerable families. Our Flying Start, Families First, Youth and Play services are all in place to meet the needs of our communities. We work with our partner organisations, Aneurin Bevan, University Health Board, Gwent Police and a plethora of third sector organisations to deliver support, advice, guidance and direct interventions for families. As part of the recent restructure of our senior management team, we have identified a need to enhance our prevention and inclusion services and hence bringing together of provisions to create greater coherence and shared practice to avoid duplication. Some of our services specifically support families to ensure that they have full access to appropriate benefits. Now, the biggest fall in income has been for people in the fifth of the population with the lowest AHC income. This reduction was driven by deliberate reductions in state benefits due to the austerity cap on benefit rates between 2016 and 2020. Things are no better for children. There are now 4.2 million children living in poverty, 600,000 more than in 2012, and the headline-grabbing figure of 1 in 3 is relevant to many parts of the UK and are indicative to the response to poverty by the UK government. A staggering 440,000 more people were in poverty this summer and potentially 690,000 more this winter, including further 150,000 children, flamed by the UK government's response to poverty. Not my words, Councillor Mogford, but those of your own colleague, Baronet Stroud, the Conservative peer, no less supported by the Roundtree Foundation and the government's own advisers, the Social Mobility Commission. What was the Chancellor's response to these dire warnings that 1 in 3 children will end up in poverty by the Children Commissioner? the Chancellor, probably the richest MP in Parliament, announced that he was ending the emergency £20 per week uplift to universal credit payments in August. We shouldn't, in the 21st century, have children who wake up with absolute different life opportunities with their life script already written. That's wrong. So poverty is a pandemic in the UK, and I truly believe that on this side of the border, in Wales, we have a government and local authorities trying hard to deal with it. Our focus in Newport is very much about supporting those in the greatest need, and you can see that in our Labour policies. Free school meals, cost of living payments, a winter fuel support grant, free bus services twice last year, and additional support to those at our food banks, among many of our packages of support to the poorest people in our city. In the last council meeting, Councillor Mugford, you may recall a motion I submitted on the cost of living crisis, where we discussed the removal of the energy cap, the impact of Brexit, the impact of the highest inflation figures in 30 years, stagnant wages and the cost of living crisis. We warned that 6 million will face fuel poverty, and all these factors squeeze family income, sending many into reliance on food banks. These factors can only be tackled by decisive action by UK government. The motion asks for action to counteract the impact of the crisis on families. While I'm sure your question is well-intentioned, I'm surprised that your party have refused to even take part in the debate or support the motion, which was a direct appeal to the UK government to support those families who are already suffering but face an even harder winter. The continued regeneration developments in Newport are generating employment and enhancing the wider environment for all our citizens, and these will bring greater opportunities for all our citizens. However, many in our population, and especially our longer population, will continue to be dependent on social security and in-work benefits. As the cost of living continues largely unabated by the UK government, the impact on our citizens, and particularly children, is of considerable concern. We as a council continue to do everything possible to support families to mitigate the impact of this nationally driven crisis. Maybe if Councillor Mogman wants to get to the real cause of poverty in the UK, he should be asking the former Chancellor and soon-to-be former Prime Minister the very same question. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Of course.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. You've got a supplementary question, and it's got to be clarifying on some of the points that Councillor Hughes...
Hopefully it will. My question won't clarify it, but hopefully Councillor Hughes will clarify. Yes, I will talk to the people that you've batted the question off to. My question was about Newport and making it the most impoverished local authority area in Wales. Are you actually blaming the Westminster government for making Newport the most impoverished area in Wales?
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Councillor Mogford. I think you'll see in my response pretty clearly what my views are. And as you ask my views on the issue, I think if you can refer back to the answer, you'll find the answer to your supplementary question. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. We move on now to question 6, Cabinet Member for Organisation and Transformation. Councillor Morris, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Please, can you explain your role and your responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers who report to you?
Thank you, Councillor Morris, for your question. I am the Cabinet Member for Organisational Transformation. My responsibilities for this role are set out in Appendix 1 of Item 2 on our agenda today. Members can find this on page 33 of the report pack. My vision is the shared vision set out by the Labour administration in our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form the basis of the corporate plan from which the service areas will be developed. I work closely with the Director for Head of Law and Standards, Head of People and Policy and Transformation, and other senior officers. All elected members have been provided with the details of the executive team and heads of service as part of their induction. Thank you for the question, Councillor Morris.
Supplementary question? Right, move on to question... Thank you, Cabinet Member. Question 7, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Biodiversity. Councillor Morris.
Please, can you explain your role and responsibilities, including your personal visions for that role, and the names of the senior officers who you report to?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Morris. I am the Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Biodiversity. Responsibilities relating to this role are set out in Appendix 1 of Item 2 on our agenda today. Minutes of 17th of May 2022. Members can find this on page 33 of the report pack. My vision is the shared vision set out by the Labour administration in our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form the basis of the corporate plan from which the service area plans will be developed. I work closely with the Strategic Director for Environment and Sustainability, Paul Jones, and the Head of Service for Environment and Public Protection, Sylvia Gonzalez-Lopez. All elected members have been provided with details of the executive team and heads of service as part of their induction. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. Councillor Morris, a supplementary question. Right, we'll move on to question 8. Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Assets.
Like deja vu, isn't it? Please, can you explain your role and responsibility, including your personal vision for that role, and the names of the senior officers who you report to?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Morris. I'm the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Assets. Responsibilities relating to this role are set out in Appendix 1 of Item 2 on our agenda today. Minutes on the 17th of May 2022. Members can find this on page 33 of the report pack. My vision is the shared vision set out by the Labour administration and our manifesto commitments to the people of Newport. These commitments will form the basis of the corporate plan, which with service area plans will be developed. I work closely with the Strategic Director Paul Jones, the Head of City Services Stephen Jarrett, and the Head of People, Policy and Transformation, and Tracy McKim, and other senior officers. All elected members have been produced with the details of the executive teams and heads of service as part of this induction.
Councillor Morris. Supplementary rights. Okay. We move on now to question 9, and this is Councillor Mogford.
At this, could the Cabinet Member give their vision for the future of public transport within the city, and in doing so expressed a view as to whether our public transport network, as it stands, is currently fit for purpose?
Cabinet Member.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Mogford. The Welsh Government's transport strategy through Nebudd has the use of active travel and public transport as preferred choices to that of private car, and I share these aspirations. The travel pattern changed through the pandemic and have significant impact on bus patronage, and this is not unique to Newport, and as the viability of service has been affected. We've worked closely with Welsh Government throughout the pandemic, and I am pleased that services have been and continue to be supported by emergency funding. This support will allow for the changes in patronage to be better and understood as we move forward. The industry faces its own challenges, including the supply of drivers. I support the recent and ongoing initiatives in Newport, such as the free fare trials and the Flexi scheme that allows us to provide services to determine how initiatives and different services can benefit other communities. I'd also note that our municipal operator is innovative in their approach, now running a number of electric buses with the associated carbon reduction they bring. I'm keen to continue to work with the Burns Commission for any other benefits to public transport that can be made to this city, and note this includes improvements to our rail offer. You may also be aware that we have recently responded to the Welsh Government consultation on the future of the industry, changing from a predominantly commercial industry as it is now to a franchise system, asking for more detail on the proposals to ensure all communities have an effective public transport system in the future.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. Councillor Mogford, you've got a supplementary question?
Yeah, a bit of clarification. You mentioned that about the free initiatives just before the election, if I recall well. Do you plan to have any more of these initiatives where the costs are waived for people for a month or so, as before? Thank you.
Cabinet Member.
Thank you for your supplementary, Councillor Mogford. I think you'd appreciate that I'm new to the portfolio, and therefore I wouldn't want to give you any false information, so I'll follow this up in writing after the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Mogford, you're on again.
Okay, this is a longer question. Apologies. With the announcement of the new 20-mile-an-hour legislation coming into effect in the second half of 2023, and given that the new legislation will not apply a blanket speed limit on all roads, rather it will make the default limit 20 miles an hour, leaving local authorities to engage with the local community to decide which roads should remain at 30 miles an hour. Can the Cabinet member give an update on any process for engagement with the local community? Will these changes be fully funded by the Welsh Government? If not, what will be the financial implication to the Council budget?
Thank you, Councillor Moffat. Officers have been working with the Welsh Government on their initiative to change the default speed limit of 30 in residential areas to 20 miles per hour. Via Welsh Government, specialist consultants have mapped out the current 30-mile-an-hour speed limit across Wales and have provided to all local authorities, including Newport, with maps showing the areas where they feel the criteria set to ensure consistency across Wales applies. Newport has completed all its network assessments and submitted the data to Welsh Government for consideration and inclusion of their data maps Wales, which will show the 20-mile-an-hour and 30-mile-an-hour exceptions to the city. It is anticipated this data will be publicly available from September 2022. Welsh Government are currently working on all communication strategy, and we will work alongside that strategy to seek and to ensure that our communities are informed of the initiative. As a Welsh Government initiative, they have committed to funding the implementation of the 20-mile-an-hour default speed limit for all 22 authorities across Wales, and therefore should be financial implications for the City Council across Wales, and therefore there should be financial implications for the City Council in implementing this new legislation.
Councillor Mogford, you've got a supplementary clarification on...
Just for clarification, so in terms of a local process post the announcement of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, are we saying that there will not be a consultation with residents and that a map has been provided? Can you just clarify that? I didn't quite understand.
Once again, I don't want to give you any information that's incorrect, so I'll follow this up in after the meeting in writing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Cabinet Member, Councillor Mogford. Apparently I have no other further questions posed to any of the committee chairs, so I believe that concludes the meeting of the Council. The next meeting will take place on September the 27th of September. Can I thank everybody this evening? I think it's we got through it, the weather and everything, and just have a good summer, a good break for some. Obviously, as a councillor, you can never say you're having a break, really, because there's always someone going to phone you or email you. But generally, have a good time and look forward to meeting you all in September. Thank you very much indeed.